So the first thing we need to establish is what is submission. And the worldly dictionary definition is the act of yielding to a higher authority or the presentation of a document, proposal, or item for consideration, evaluation, or judgment. And one reason why I decided to go down this route as a sermon, because I've been trying to work on this for like 3 months, and everything it just kept going a different way. This is revision 7. This is to see how many times I've redone this thing. Where I work, you hear a lot of different things, and a lot of people have a problem with the word submission, whether it be to their boss, to the law, to their spouse, to God, whatever it is. Because I got a lot of people I work with, they don't have a problem submitting with God until it comes to one thing. Well, I don't agree with that. I don't think he'd really do that. Well, it doesn't matter what you think, it's what it says. You know? And, as far as the spouse, we all know how that goes. He ain't telling me what to do. She ain't telling me what to do. But then you dive deep, you realize that's what we're called to do. But, that's a whole different sermon on its own right there. But in this definition, we see that it says a higher authority. So for us, that's God. And the document we're going to submit to is the Bible. Biblically, the word, the sort of the definition for submit is actually comes from the Greek word hupotasso. Hupa means under, and tasso means to arrange. So it's also translated by the words subject and subjection. The full meaning of hupotasso is to obey, put under, be subject to, submit oneself to, or to be obedient to. To break it down, simply, it's this, that rather than live under our viewpoint as a human, we're going to live under God, his divine viewpoint, because we won't always know how to do everything, but he will. So we say, I'm struggling to do it on my own, so I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to walk with you. And in the following verses, I don't want to give it away yet, but there's 2 more words that kept coming to me ever since the very first revision I did on this, that you could sort of, I think it's a synonym where something sort of means the same, and it would make it easier if you replaced the word submit with these words, right? It makes the pill easier to swallow, so to speak. So why is it important? Well, there's different reasons. In the world, let's say it's the military. You have your generals and your higher-ups. Their whole goal is to get this mission done and to bring back everybody home safe. Now imagine you go out there and someone's, well, I'm just not doing it. I don't want to go that way. And then he goes this way, gets everybody killed. Well, there's something he may not know that they know. Because maybe he don't like that guy because in boot camp he gave him a hard time. And then in the medical field, if you ever watch surgery shows, the surgeon, when he's in that room and he's in surgery, he's the top guy. Whatever he says goes. If he tells you to leave, you got to leave. Whatever it is. Now, there's also this, it's called a surgical technician, I think, with that hands on the tools. So you imagine that he's in a surgery and he's hands deep. Hey, give me whatever. I don't think that's the one you need. I ain't what I asked. I said, give it to me. Because there's times in certain surgeries where seconds matter. When my wife gave birth to Holly Grace, she almost didn't make it. She was a really long labor. Long story short, her body wouldn't contract back after she was delivered, so she was bleeding out. All the nurses that was in there was busy trying to help the doctor. He's got 2 hands trying to operate, trying to fix this. He's covered in blood, so he's asking for blood. And her blood's like O negative, something weird. And it's very rare, apparently. Well, they come back in. It's like A positive or A minus. Nowhere near. And let me tell you, she said the doctor had a good choice few words, and they ended with, if you don't give me the right blood in 3 seconds, everybody's fired. Because he's like, I ain't got time. I mean, she was to the point where she said that, like, imagine like there's just this blackness coming over, and it's just this little circle. She's about to pass out. So she thought she was dead, looked at her mom and said, just take care of her. And so he knows I got seconds before it's too late, and then y'all weren't submitting to what I told you to bring me. You weren't listening to when I said it. And then so at work, something I can really relate to is it's my job to get the task complete and do it safely. As a boss, it's not just to get the job done, but I got to make sure everybody stays safe. If you've ever worked anywhere, PPE is a big thing. If you worked in like a factory or a blue-collar job. And a lot lot of times I have some people, when I ask them to do something, they want to know why. Who told you to tell me? And this and that. And I'm like, guys, we got like 30 minutes. I just need you to do it. I'll tell you when we get done. You ain't got to know every reason, right? Because they don't know the stuff that I know. They don't go to the meetings I go to. Sometimes they don't know, like, hey, if we get this done, I get to send y'all home early because everybody wants to go home early. But if I tell them they're not going to want to work, they're going to want to go now. But see, they want to sort of not listen to me. But godly submission is important because in our submission we grow closer and stronger with God. And so the following key verses, we're going to look at a couple verses here to help explain it. James 4:7-8. Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. So in this, when I spent like 30 minutes just on this one verse, and that stuff kept coming to me. I realized you could probably do it all on this one verse because it shows that submission to God will help us resist the devil and will cause him to flee. It doesn't say submission to God means you'll never have a problem because it says we have to resist them. So therefore, if you read between the lines, it suggests that no matter how close you walk, there's still going to be at some point some issue that you got to overcome. But if we resist him, he'll flee. It doesn't say he might, it says he will. And also my mind, if you ever watched the cartoons back in the day, you had like the angel and the devil on the different shoulders. If you kind of read the verses, kind of like I picture God and Satan side by side. And so it also is pretty much telling you you're going to submit one way or the other. There's only two options.
That's right.
And a lot of people say, and I've worked with some really good people. They were good people. They weren't bad people, but they just didn't believe in God. At the very least, that there is something, but I don't know which one it is, right? So they'll say, well, I don't worship the devil or nothing, but I don't believe in God. I said, but you are, though. If you're not believing in God, you are. Well, no, I don't go to no Satanist church or nothing. I was like, well, that's not what, you ain't got to do all that. It's just simply this side or the other. Because everybody thinks there's this middle, right? And they think of it as Satan as like, the pointy ear, the pointy horn, red guy with the pitchfork. What they'll realize is sometimes when you say Satan, you mean the world. Because if you're not following God, you're going to follow the world. That's as simple as it is. And when I try to explain this to them, I can see that sometimes it's just not clicking with them. Because they think, well, just because I'm not good doesn't mean I'm also bad. Right? And it's just as simple as this. They don't want to live in submission to God. Because I've had a couple that sort of maybe lean toward I might want to. I start saying, well, because I know you very well, because we talk all the time, this is what you got to give up. I don't know about that. I had one guy tell me, he worked for me, he said, I really do want to be saved. He said, but I know I won't quit drinking. He said, I got a real bad drinking problem because I get drunk every day. Can't wait for it. That's what I do. He said, when I grew up, my dad used to give it to me when I was a kid, and I was his drinking buddy. He's like, so I know that no matter what's going to happen, I'm going to eventually go to that shop to work on that truck, and I'm going to get drunk. He goes, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. So I tried to explain to him that being saved and through salvation, that's something that God can help him overcome. But I could not convince him. I said, look, man, I'm not saying you're going to get saved at 12:30 today, and at 5 o'clock this evening, you ain't going to drink because it just happened, right? But over time, I said, now you should want to change instantly, but it's not like instantly you just 100% better. I said, so don't think because I can't do it right now that you just don't do it at all. Because better you at least try than you don't try at all. And I sort of explained it to him because he wasn't married. And I said, imagine you found the woman of your dreams. She's beautiful. She's 10 out of 10. The house is kept up. Whatever your dream is. I said, would you leave her? He's like, well, no, I wouldn't. I got everything I want. I said, that's how it is. I said, if you did something to hurt her, you'd be so disappointed because you'd be scared to lose her, right? I said, so when you get saved, if you was to take that drink, you'd feel so much guilt you wouldn't want to do it another time. And see, going back to one or the other, in Matthew 12:30, it tells us, whoever is not with me is against me. And those are red letters. So what does that say? That's Jesus talking. So he didn't say, well, if you're not with me, you could be with someone else. And it may not be that guy. It might be this guy. He says, you're either with me or you're not. You can't be sort of with me. You know? It's like you're either married or you're not. You're pregnant or you're not. There's some things you just can't be but one or the other. Also in John 17, 12 through 16, we see that while I was with them, I kept them in your name, which you had given them. I have guarded them, and not one of them has been lost except the son of destruction, that the scripture might be fulfilled. But now I am coming to you, and these things I speak in the world, that they may have my joy fulfilled in themselves. I have given them your word, and the world has hated them because they are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. They are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. So this is Jesus talking again. And he's telling them they hate them because they hated me. We all heard that. They hated me because they hated them because they hated me first. And he didn't say, hey, take them out of the world so they don't have no problems. He just said, just keep them. Right? So if anything, if you ever try to get stronger, like I work out at the gym or whatever it is, or like hunting, the more you do it, the better you get, right? I've seen people that can walk through the woods and tell you what everything that's been through there. And I'll just see a tree, you know? And I was like, well, I've been hunting since I can remember. So they can see every little thing. And then as far as like the gym, you can't lift 300 pounds till you can lift 200. You know, you got to work your way up, and it takes time. And so it's not that, so some people, well, I just want to do it. I just want to be right there. And it's like this. He didn't say, oh, let's just give them the reward, take them out, give them the reward, take them out of the world, and they have no problems. Because it makes us stronger as we go, if we overcome those things. Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. So this right here is our first synonym word, trust. So if I say, submit to your spouse, a lot of people have a problem with that. If I say trust your spouse, that's a lot easier, right? It's a lot easier sounding. Nobody has a problem trusting them because I trust that I can't cook certain things that my wife can. She's going to trust that I can fix the car better than she can. So if I say, I need this wrench because of this, okay, why would I argue? I don't know nothing about it. You know what I mean? But if I say, hey, submit to me and give me that wrench, she's going to throw it at me. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's people take it the wrong way. So submission just means, part of that is that if you trust somebody, you're not going to have a problem submitting to them. Right? And in this verse, to me it represents that sometimes we may not understand why God don't answer our prayers, or sometimes we feel like it's a no when we want to hear yes, but it just may be in the place that we can't understand at the current moment. If you think about it, if you ever played any sports, we've all probably seen, you might be that guy, or some guy that's really, really good. Coach, he's real hard on him. And he gets frustrated, I'm the best one on the team, and he rides me harder than anybody. What about these guys? I'm doing all the work because he knows what he can be. So he says, I'm going to put my attention. For instance, when Jensen played this year, baseball, he was on one team and he had to get moved up because they said he was too good for that division. But on that first team he was on, once, he was a lot bigger than those kids were, so I was already a little worried. And they're throwing the ball. Then when he throws it, the coach said, my goodness. He said, I'm going to be counting on you this year. He said, I'm going to treat you harder than all the rest of them. He comes, Daddy, why did he say that? I said, because he knows that if he gets you in order, that he's got a really good chance of winning. Because he knows some of the other ones are slacking. They can't throw the ball past 10 feet. And they throw it real slow. One kid, he comes back here like this, and then and we don't know where it's going to go. I said, you could throw it from the outfield to the infield, and it's going to go right where you want it to. I said, so that's why he's saying, I'm going to be counting on you the most. So therefore, I'm going to be harder on you than I am anybody else. If you miss one, it's a big deal. If they miss one, well, we expected it. We all know there's always those kids on the team. They go up to bat, well, there's out. I mean, me and my wife have helped with both of our boys' baseball teams, and I know if we got 2 outs, who's next up to bat? So-and-so. Oh, well, let's get our gloves on. Because it's a guaranteed out. We all know. We've all seen them, right? And And see, this is another example, like I was saying earlier about work, is so I go to, like, you can ask Josh, some of the meetings all the time. Sometimes too many, I feel like. And some things I'm not allowed to say, some things I am. And so when those guys, they ask me questions, I'm like, hey, we need to do this, why? Or like sometimes, I give the example was I have to rush this truck out. We got to hurry up and build it and get it out. Well, you said this morning, take your time. Things change, man. Well, who said? I said, don't matter who said. I said. That's what, I'm your boss. My boss's boss said, hurry up. If you really want to know, you want me to call him out here? The guy that runs everything? I mean, come on, guys. Let's just get it done. Then we'll talk about it. And see, they want to know everything in detail for they'll do it. But I'm like, look, you just can't understand it because you don't know the certain things I know for it to make sense. So if I explain it to you, it still ain't going to make sense, right? They don't know delivery dates and everything. All they know is I clock in at 5 and I go home at 1:30. 1 Peter 5:6. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you. So humble is the second word. So if I say humble yourself to your spouse, or humble yourself to your father or your mother, those are easy ones. You trust your parents? Yeah. Be humble towards them. Okay. That's not as hard to hear as submit is. And when I read this, it's because it says at the proper time he may exalt you. So maybe sometimes that prayer, or that delay, or that no isn't that God's not listening or he's being mean. It's just it's not the right time. So sometimes you'll get on that walk and people, well, I've been walking really good. And then I asked for this. And he knows I've been needing it. And he ain't giving it to me, so I'm done. Don't get off the walk too early. Because it may not be that you're not going to get it. You just can't get it right now. And there may be reasons why. It took me back to it might have been my very first car I was going to get. I saw this really nice F-150, and I told Dad, I was like, I really like that truck. He said, we can get it. And then he was, obviously it's my first job. He's helping me in my finance. He said, but that's all you're going to get. I said, what do you mean? He said, that truck don't look so good when it sits in the driveway all weekend because it takes all your money just to pay for it. You can't go out and do nothing. It starts to look real ugly real fast. It looks good when it's sitting on the car lot. Like, man, I would look real cool driving that truck. But then when it takes everything you got, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I'm staring at my truck because I spent all my money on it. And see, this took me also to 1 Timothy 3:6. It says, he must not be a recent convert, or he may become puffed up with conceit and fall into the condemnation of the devil. So this right here is talking about, Paul was talking about pastors. So someone, let's say, got saved last week, don't need to be a pastor the week after. And it doesn't mean that he may not be a great pastor one day, right? He just started. So he's on the milk, not the meat, as we say, right? And it's because it says if he does. And we all see that one guy who's the new convert, right? He could quote scriptures better than a 20-year veteran because he's been reading it nonstop. They're real on fire at first. Then you see them a couple months later, and it sort of died down, right? And so he could fall into pride. Well, I didn't have to wait 7 years before I was a pastor. Like this guy here has been a Christian his whole life. He asked me a week later. I showed up, got saved, and next week I was a pastor. So that's why I'm saying sometimes it's not a no. It's not the right time. And then in Luke 22:42, we see Jesus' example of submission. And this is where he is in the Garden of Gethsemane right before he dies or gets crucified. And he's praying to God, and he's struggling. He's not just a little stressed out. He's very stressed out to the point it says he sweated blood. I mean, he's really, really struggling. And if you don't know, the whole thing is at any moment he could have called 12 legions of angels. And somewhere around like 72,000. Because any second, hey, come get me. I'm tired of dealing with it. And he didn't have to do it. We all know we don't deserve it. And every time you sin, it's like spitting in his face for what he did do for you, right? And he knows all this already. And in my mind, when I was sitting there thinking about it, I was like, we know what pain is. And like, I ain't never been hit with a water hose, but I got an idea of what it might feel like. All right? But imagine God who created literally everything, he knows it to such a higher level that we can't comprehend it. So he already knows what's coming. So that's why he's stressed out. But even then, he says, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. So he fell back. He stayed in his submission to the fact is, this is what I'm supposed to do. I really, really don't want to, but I know I got to. So sometimes we have to do things we don't want because we know we have to, because God calls us to do that. Another one is Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 2. And if you faithfully obey the voice of the Lord your God, being careful to do all of his commandments that I command you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you if you obey the voice of the Lord your God. So we see that if we're faithful and we obey, we'll be lifted up and even receive blessings. He'll set you higher. So if you ever seen somebody who's really walking in the faith, sometimes you're like, man, I don't know what that guy, he was needing a car and someone gave him one. Well, just gave it to him. You know what I mean? Or you all hear stories of people you may know where they might have been struggling financially and they was praying about it. And this happened to one of my friends, David, he told me. He said, man, I was really struggling and I was praying and I was really worried. Just been like a lot of stuff was tearing up around the house, took all my money I had saved up. And I was going to buy groceries, what I had, and he said, you'll never believe it. This woman walked up to me. The Lord told me to give you this. He was like, what? He said, open up as $1,000 in the envelope. You know what I mean? And he's like, man, I started crying. This guy's twice my size. He said, I just started crying. I didn't know what to do. And he said, that lady she started crying. I started crying. He's like, it just come out of nowhere. It also says in Psalms 119, 165, great peace to those who love your law. Nothing can make them stumble. So we know we'll get rewarded and we'll get peace in the end. And so when I can't remember how I got on Jonah, but I ended up on Jonah as a good example of what we're talking about, walking in submission. We all know the story, and it's like 10 minutes to read the whole book. I can't even remember. I didn't remember it being so short, to be honest with you. By the time I was like, that's it? I felt like this is a lot longer. When you're listening to it your whole life, I felt like it was like a 20 chapter. It was 4, and like 10 verses in one of the chapters. But see, we'll start in Jonah 1 through 3. And it says, the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah rose up to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. So he went down to Joppa, found the ship that was going to Tarshish, paid the fare, and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. So here we see, so if Jonah's a prophet, he's obviously in submission with God, right? Well, if you don't know, behind the scenes is Nineveh's very bad. Jonah didn't want to go because he knew God was going to forgive him. We ever met someone that made you so mad? You're like, man, I hope they don't get saved. Yeah, that ain't right that they act like that their whole life and get to come up here with me. And I've been struggling this whole time. I've been there myself. You know what I mean? I mean, like, this person ain't acted right a day in their life, and I know what's going to happen. Last day, Lord, save me. And then I got to see them up there. I'm like, this ain't even right. I struggled this whole time. But here we see that Jonah was assigned a task, but he didn't want to. So he decided, I'm going to go my way, and this started his journey out of the walk of submission. So he was in the walk. I don't think so. I'm going this way. So God said, all right, go ahead. So let's read verse 4. The Lord hurled a great wind on the sea, and there was a great storm on the sea, so that the ship was about to break up. Then the sailors became afraid, and every man cried to his God, and they threw the cargo which was in the ship into the sea to lighten the load for them. But Jonah had gone below in the hold of the ship, lay down and fallen sound asleep. So the captain approached him and said, how is it that you're sleeping? Get up and call on your God. Perhaps your God will be concerned about us so that we will not perish. So now Jonah's got to pay a price for what he did, right? So if you think about it, when he's walking with God, he's protected, right? The moment he veers off, he's unprotected. It's just like this. If if you're walking down a street with your child, the chances of anybody coming to get them is a lot lower than if they're by themselves. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean it can't happen, but the chances are it's very low. Specifically if it's the father, right? Because we know anytime you see an attack, well, me and my wife watch a lot of the true crime stuff, like where these crimes happen and you see the police. And if it's like a family that gets killed, they always start with the dad first because he's the hardest obstacle to overcome, right? Then it's the mother, then it's the kid, almost every single time. And that's what it's like if we're not with God. We're unprotected. And see, the price of his lack of submission was his trip got real hard. And think of it sort of like maybe like a hurricane type situation. And what I found funny is, and I'm going to paraphrase 5 through 17, is Jonah, he just went to sleep because he's like, I already know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? If you ever grow up, you do something at your house, like I remember being small, my mom said, wait till your daddy gets home. I'm like, I knew if I got caught doing something, I was like, I already know what's going to happen. I'm just going to have fun the rest of the day till he gets home. Because I already knew I was getting a whooping. And then it's like, I remember, like, so when I used to get whoopings, I get grounded whooping and I get a 30-minute sermon lesson on why I was doing wrong by the Bible. So I used to get really mad. Like, man, just whoop me, get over with. Please. And, like, my friends were like, man, come on. I was like, But it's just a whooping, it don't last long. I said, that's y'all. I was like, I got a 30-minute sermon when I get done, get whooped. I'm crying and trying to listen. I said, and I'm grounded too. I said, y'all don't, it ain't like it is for y'all like it is for me. I said, so I ain't going. See, Jonah, his sort of situation, he's like, guys are like, hey man, there's a storm. You out here sleeping. He's like, yeah, that's my fault. That's my bad. And he's like, and he goes on, the storm keeps going. And he knows what's happening. He tells them, y'all got to throw me overboard. Ain't nothing going to work besides if you throw me. And they're like, we ain't throwing you. Because they know who he is. It says they don't want the blood on their hands. But he tells them, you have to. You don't understand. You got to get rid of me for this to go away. Because this is all because I didn't listen. And we all know what happens, right? He gets thrown overboard. Here comes the fish, right? It eats him. Chapter 2. We're going to read real quick. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord, his God, from the stomach of the fish. And he said, I called out of my distress to the Lord, and he answered me. I cried for help from the depth of Sheol. You heard my voice. For you had cast me into the deep, into the heart of the sea, and the current engulfed me. All your breakers and billows passed over me. So I said, I have been expelled from your sight. Nevertheless, I look up again towards your holy temple. Water encompassed me to the point of death. The great deep engulfed me. Weeds were wrapped around my head. I descended to the roots of the mountain. The earth with its bars was around me forever. But you have brought up my life from the pit, O Lord my God. While I was fainting away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you in your holy temple. Those who regard vain idols forsake their faithfulness. But I will sacrifice to you with the voice of thanksgiving. That which I have vowed I will pay. Salvation is from the Lord. Then the Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah up on dry land. So the reason that's important is when I read this for the first time in my life, I had to call my dad. That's not the first time I had to do it. The first time in my life, I thought Jonah died. That's why I called my dad, is what I meant. So I was sitting there, I'm like, did Jonah die? At this point, I called Daddy. We was on the phone for an hour. I said, when I was reading this, in one part it sounds like maybe he almost died. And then another way he explains it, it sounds like he did die. And then so we went on, and it's sort of two schools of thoughts here, right? It's either Jonah died and he went to Sheol, which is, if you know what Strong's Concordance is, it lists that means Hades, world of the dead, the grave, hell, or the pit. King James Version actually uses hell in place. So he went to hell. So I'm like, well, he died. He had to, right? You only go there when you die. But then he sort of says, well, I was on the way to death. So it's, in my mind, the way it's kind of like a poem where it's explaining what's happened to him. So I imagine he's probably like drowning. He's talking about the weeds around his head. and stuff. So at the very least, he was almost dead. And then this is the part. You got to remember, he's like, I'm in rebellion right now. They had to throw me overboard. I had to save these guys. Now I got swallowed by this fish, and I'm about to die. And he's like, he remembered. He remembered God. And that's when he cried out. And so we see in verse 7 that he was fainting away. And he remembered, so like I just said, he remembered the Lord, and his prayer came to his holy temple. In verse 6, that's where it's saying the bars were around me forever, which was sort of he was already dead, right? Talking about he can't get out. He's down there forever. But you know what I got from that when he says that God rescued him by obviously spitting him on the dry land is no matter how dead we feel, if we cry out to God, he'll be there for us. So Jonah is physically talking. Physically, he's feeling dead. But also spiritually too, right? But he remembered, and in the end, God saved him. And he also took him to where he wanted him to go, right? Because God can control everything. So he said, while he's in there fussing and about to die, you swim that way. And then I'm going to deliver him when I'm ready. So you see, he never let go of Jonah. Jonah let go of him. And the same way with us is we're the ones who let go, not him. And we got to remember that he's always right there waiting on us. You don't have to go there, but in Matthew 18:12 through 14, it talks about he leaves the 99 for the one. We've all heard it a million times, right? And that simply is, I know these are safe. Let me get the one that's not safe. And see, we don't deserve the grace we're given as Jonah didn't deserve to be rescued, because that was his decision to go that way. But thank God that he's always willing to come back and help us, even when we're hard-headed. You know, kind of like that, talking about that one sheep. I imagine that one sheep's probably the same one that always wanders off. You know, I haven't had sheep, but I've had lots of dogs. And when you need them to come back, they don't want to. And then you're like, if you don't come back, I'm trying to help you. There's a bad storm coming. I'm trying to get you to a good spot. And then you just say, you know what? You can sit outside then. And then they're sitting at the door waiting for you to let them in. Well, now you're soaking wet and muddy. You ain't coming in. I tried all day. I done got ill. You're not coming in. And see, chapter 2 is also a Old to New Testament parallel of Christ. So he was in there for how long? 3 days. Arguably he died, or at least almost died, right? Who else was in somewhere for 3 days in the belly of something, belly of the grave, right? Matthew 12:38 through 42. I'm sorry. Yeah, Matthew 12:38 through 42. Then some of the scribes and Pharisees said to him, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. But he answered and said to them, An evil and adulterous generation craves for a sign, and yet no sign will be given to you but the prophet, the Jonah the prophet. For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the sea of monster, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh will stand up with this generation at the judgment and will condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and behold, something greater than Jonah is here. And pause it right there. And so there's your parallel, right? Even that's Jesus speaking. So he uses it as a parallel. So a lot of times if you read the Old Testament and you read the New Testament, a lot of stuff sort of the same. Abraham sacrificing Isaac, God sacrificing Jesus. You know, there's lots of stuff that you can do like that. And, you know, and this is going to be, when I tell you this is revision 7 of how long I've been trying to put this together, and things kept happening. Before I read this, I'm going to tell you, I had this thing I do where I got these 2 containers, right? I wrote down at the beginning of the year, every book of the Bible, come up little piece. I draw them back random. Whatever it is, I read it. I was on 1 Kings, right? That's Solomon. So here I was reading this, and it talks about the queen of the south will rise up with this generation at the judgment and condemn it, because she came to hear Solomon, and behold, that something greater than Solomon is here. So if you know anything about Solomon, he was the most wise and wealthiest king. And so I was like, well, what are the chances of that? I've been reading this. This ain't even part of the sermon. This is something I do. And then I'm right here where he's at. So I'm going to throw it in there. And then I got to thinking, you know what? Solomon's another good example of a walk with God. and the lack of a walk with God. You see, verse 42 is talking about Queen of Sheba when she visits Solomon. And, she's come to see all of his wealth and all of his wisdom. We all know, the sword with the baby, how he figured out who the real mom was. Well, we'll just split the baby in half. The real mom said, let her have it. And that's how he knew, because the real mom would rather it live, even if it's not with her. The false mom was like, well, yeah, it sounds good to me, because she's done lost hers, so she wants her to lose hers too. So we see that wisdom. And there's a promise that Solomon was given by God, is that as long as he walked with God, as he was told in 1 Kings 9:4-5, that he would establish his throne forever. He says, as you walk with me, as your father David walked in integrity of heart and uprightness, doing according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and ordinances, then I will establish your throne of your kingdom over Israel forever. Just as I promised your father David, you shall not lack a man on the throne of Israel. So he's got a promise. As long as you stay on this walk like you have been, you got it made. And when you're reading about Solomon, he had a whole house just solid gold, like overlaid with gold. He had everything. He had everything he wanted. And he had a pretty peaceful reign. Like there wasn't many people coming against him. However, once you read it, we all know what happens towards the end. You see, Solomon had like 1,000 wives. And they were very foreign wives. And the purpose, if you read in the Old Testament, here they were very discouraged from marrying anything outside of their tribes, right? And the reason is they worship God. Everybody else worships something different. And what almost always happened is if you married someone that's not in your tribe or tribes, the nation, then you would fall for their gods, and then it would corrupt everything. And then you would even bring it into your nations, right? And that's what happened to him, to the point that he started worshiping other gods and their idolatry. And so it takes us to 1 Kings 11:11, where God says, because you have done this, and you have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you, and I'll give it to your servant. So there, Solomon lost it all. Because God said, all you had to do, you already started with it. This is an example of someone who started with everything and then still ended up with nothing. He had it all. Jonah, he started, got off, but got back on. As far as I can tell, I'm not sure if Solomon ever really did get back on. It just says he's just had this decline. Right? And we know after Solomon built the temple, it got destroyed, and the Israelites went enslaved, later on. So obviously there was a decline. It just started off great. So if we choose to walk away, it's not on us. It's on us that what happens, not God. Just like Jonah and the fish, and like Solomon when he lost everything. And which will take us to Jonah 3. See, Jonah arrives in Nineveh. He gets spit out of the fish. He arrives in Nineveh, begins to proclaim the word of the Lord. When it reaches the king, he gets off of his throne. He pulls off his robe, puts on sackcloth, and he commands every single person and animal does not eat or drink. And he said we have to vehemently beg and praise God and turn from our evil ways in hopes that he'll forgive us. All right? And everybody did it, and what happened? They got forgiven. 3:10. And when God saw their deeds, they turned from their wicked way. Then God relented concerning the calamity which he had declared he would bring upon them, and he did not do it. So God relented, and they began to walk in submission with God. You see, I'm going to have a demonstration. So Monica's going to help set that up while I'm talking about this. Had Jonah never got back on that walk with submission, there's a series of events that are going to happen. Nineveh's not going to hear it, then they're not going to repent, and then Nineveh's going to be lost forever. And so it's very important that no matter what happens, we stay on this walk. And in this demonstration, I debated doing it or not doing it, but I really think it's sometimes it's good to see it, especially for like younger people. I'm a very visual learner myself. You could tell me how to do something, but if I see you do it, particularly like with when I was learning welding, if I could see you do it, and and I could touch it with my hands, I could do it as soon as you get done showing me. But if you explain it to me, it's sort of hard. And I'll go over what this is to simulate. All right, Knots. Now he's going to help me. He's going to help me with this one. So we're gonna simulate a side that's walking with God and a side that's not walking with God. All right, so in this demonstration, Knots is free at any time to get whatever he wants. But before we start, come here. All right? It also is sort of, you obviously see the dumbbells. We're going to also use the reference of the gym, right? Because it's the easiest thing for me to explain. Okay? Are you ready? Now listen, hold my hand. You don't have to hold it the whole time. You hold it whenever you want to hold it, okay? If you want to let go, you can. So, you get a choice. This is a banana, and this is Skittles. But to get the banana, you got to pick up that weight. Which one you want? It's whatever you want. You get to keep. You want the Skittles? You sure? I mean, they are pretty good. And, you know, that's some carbs that you need to work out with. You need that energy. If you want them, pick them up. All right? All right, what about now? All right, put them in. I'll hold them for you. All right. What about an egg? Or is it a Kit Kat that you wanted? I mean, if you want that egg, though, you got to pick that up. Which one you want, Bubba? It's whatever you want. But you got to go down the line to pick one of these grand prizes. Which one you want? You want a Kit Kat or you want the egg? You want the egg? You sure? Okay. Well, you got to pick that up. One-handed. Hold on now. You're too strong to do it two-handed. All right. All right, let's put it back. All right, so now you got an egg. All right. Now you're left with $5 or some protein powder. But you got to pick that 35 up with one hand. You got to curl it. Which one you want? The money? All right, so your grand prize is nothing. See, it looked prettier. This bag looked a lot prettier than that bag, right? But it ain't got nothing in it. It's just some paper and a brown paper bag. In the sense of what came to me is that these dumbbells represent the resistance we find when it says resist the devil, right? And in the gym, see, he can't, I tested this already. He can't pick up the 35 very high with one hand. But he would never even get it that close if he never could pick up the 25. You couldn't pick up the 25 if you never could pick up the 7, right? And so, obviously, I knew he would choose the Skittles, right? That's why I asked, because I needed him to. And see, the devil also knows what you'll choose. So I tempted him, because if he sees a banana or Skittles, almost every kid I could have brought up here probably would have chose Skittles. Because why would I want a banana when I have candy? And I got to work for it. So the devil's like, that's fine. This is also, like, yeah, this is a good source of carbs if you want to work out. But they got carbs in that right there. But the difference is, those are bad carbs. These are good ones. All right, you mean to tell me you're going to give me an egg and I ain't even cooked? I got to cook it after I pick up the weight? But I can just eat that candy right now. Right? Why would I want protein powder? I got to get $5. I can go get something. And at any time, he could have, he didn't really hold my hand the way I needed him to, but when he was holding my hand, I was going to represent God. He's walking with me. The moment he lets go, I'm now Satan. Yeah, that's pretty good. I would get that too. Right? But at any time, he could have said, well, I want that, but I know I can't pick that up. All you got to do is ask. Because I can pick it up. I can help you pick it up. And there's even where Jesus says, give me your load for mine's light. I'll pick it up for you so you can receive that. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of times people will see that 35. Well, I know I can't pick it up, so ain't no sense going that way because I want this bag at the end. But what if we follow this path away from God, this bag, see, I specifically chose this one because it has decorations on it. It looks like there's going to be something better than that one than just a brown one. It looks good on the outside, but the inside ain't got nothing. It's empty. Just like a lot of things, like a lot of people. They look good on the outside, particularly like you younger ones you're dating. She's real pretty. I'm telling you, a bad attitude looks real ugly real fast. A 10 can be a 0 within a month. Just you'll see. If you ever step in there, you'll see. I mean, that girl that you thinks or that someone thinks pretty, there's a guy somewhere going, please take her. You know what I'm saying? Because he's had enough. And you see, in this bag here, if, had he walked down the good side, what he would have gotten is a double portion. Isaiah 61:7. Instead of your shame, you receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. And so you inherit a double portion in your land, and everlasting joy will be yours. So in the good bag, if he'd have stuck with it, he would have got $10. Instead of 2 little small Kit Kats, he'd have got a big one. And instead of a small bag of Skillet, he would have got a big bag. You see, if he would have just stuck to the right side, in the end, he would have got double what he wanted. So, see, a lot of times the devil will tempt us with the little to make us think we're going to get a lot. And if you've ever tried to eat right, if you eat right now, on the weekend, you can eat a little bad. And it's not so bad for you. But if you eat bad the whole time, there ain't nothing in the end for you. So that's my demonstration. I thought would help with that. And all he would have had to do is stick with it, and he would have got that double portion in. So I end it by saying this: don't get like he did. He started off here, and his own way. Then he said, "Well, I kind of want that egg." He come over, he picked it up, so he kind of got back on it, and he was almost to the end. Then he said, "There's $5. I'm going back over there." So don't get to the end and take your reward away from yourself. That double portion waiting on you. And that's, I just encourage y'all that, and look, I preach a lot of times on things that I go through myself. I struggle walking 100% of the time because whatever it is, work stressful, long days, like this message, for instance, I knew I really, like especially because, I'm really new to it, I stress myself on reading as much as possible, studying as much as possible, so I can remember as much as possible. Because I can't do it like that, remember stuff and tell you exactly where it's at. I have to write down every little thing. If I have a comment I want to say, I write it down because I may forget it because I can't remember sometimes. And, it's been real rough at work, so I come home like, man, I know I need to go in there and study, but, man, I'm tired. I don't even want to read nothing right now. And so, like, a lot of what I do is towards the end of the night, I like to get on my computer, and me and Ryan and my cousin Zach will play games for a little bit before we go to bed, and that's sort of how I hang out with them. I don't get to see them in person much, but I can talk to them on there, And then I would feel guilty that I wasn't studying. And I was like, man, I'm tired of feeling guilty all the time. But if I read, I know I go to sleep. I know a lot of people do that. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to discipline myself. I'm going to submit to it, and I'm going to get it done. And when I got it done, I'm like, man, I had so much free time. Like, I was like, man, I got more time to play this game than I want to. I don't even want to be here this long. And so I got that reward, so to speak, right? And in my mind, I didn't see that until I got there. But that's what I hope that y'all take from this is when you get to don't get off the walk too soon. Or don't get on the walk off the walk at all, but especially don't wait till you're right there at the end and then decide to go your way. Because you could be like Jonah and Solomon and things could go bad for you in the end. Thank you.
Amen. Now the child, we all hit that apply button. Amen. Walk with the Lord, and I guarantee you in the end, you'll be glad I walked him all the way. Amen. Listen, saints, we love you. I pray today God's word touched your heart. And remember, submission is part of life. It's how we keep going. It's how we fight the battle and win. Because we're saying, God, you're greater than I am. Amen. So we pray that you was touched and you were encouraged and strengthened. And we love you. Y'all have a great week. God bless you.